Hi, this is Kendall Boyson, professional life and recovery coach, and you're listening to Encouragementology, the practice of instilling hope. Hi there. Thanks for joining me. On this show, we are learning what it takes to let go, give in, ask for help, and surrender all. I'm joined by Rachel, a strong woman in recovery who has fought hard to build a life she can be proud of. One of joy, honesty, responsibility, and power. She will tell you it wasn't easy, and there were times she didn't see a way out. To be sitting here today, sober, hopeful, employed, and reunited with her family was something she never dreamt possible. But she met a counselor, a spiritual guide, who told her she deserved that and so much more. If you're struggling with addiction or substance abuse, or if you know someone who is, listen and pass it on. And if that hasn't reached your family, listen to a story of hope that may give you more than you bargained for.
Well, hi, everybody. I am so excited to have Rachel Skurlock with me today. She is a big friend of mine, someone I just totally admire. I'm very, very excited to share her story with you. So, hi, Rachel.
Hi.
I'm so glad you're on today. Rachel has
Thank
just
you.
a story of triumph. She has started over time and time again. She has lived through adversity. She has come out on the other side. She's still learning. She's still growing. And that's really part of her story. She can tell you where she started, where she went wrong, and where she got back on track, and what she takes every day as inspiration and fuel to keep her going forward. I think you're just going to fall in love with Rachel as I have. And so, Rachel, just to kind of kick us
Hi.
off, I'd love for the listeners to learn a little bit more about you. Who are you?
Sure.
And then obviously what made you where you are today. So we could just start out with just a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, my name's Rachel Skurlock. I am 44 years old. I live in Rockford, Illinois. I have two children, Jordan and Olivia Wiggers, and soon to be a grandma. So yes. My son and his girlfriend are having a baby. So I work in a trade. I work with the local up here in sheet metal. So yeah, and I mean, you're a big part of my story, Kendall. And I know you had Mariah on here, and she's a huge part of my story, So yes, I'm from Pinckneyville, Illinois. I was born and raised there, and I have brothers, and I have two sisters and a brother. And yeah, I live up here by myself, though, just me and my cat. Yeah, so the
And
path
that's
I took in life
amazing.
led me here.
Yeah,
So
that's how we kind of crossed paths. So,
yes,
I was
Carbondale
working,
Gateway.
that's right. I was working in a rehab facility for women, and I got to meet Rachel. She was in my Women Connect group, and she graduated from that group, and she moved on and moved out of the area, which is so important when you're
Yes,
working on sobriety, is to get away.
absolutely.
People, places, and things, got to change
Absolutely.
those, moved up,
Yeah.
and now we connect when we can. Used to be weekly, but we connect when we can in more of a
Yeah.
sober fashion. Um and the same with Mariah. We're women that have connected together. We have common bonds, and we lift each other up and encourage each other on a constant basis, which is so important. But yeah, you have quite the story. You're not the typical gateway goer. You have a long history, but such an
Do.
amazing history. So I think let's just, the burning question is what led to your addiction. And so if you could kind of take us back and set that stage for us, I think it might help connect to other people that might be struggling with the same thing.
Sure, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in a lot of it is genetics, and there's a predisposition for some of us, and unfortunately my mom was an addict. I grew up in a house that normalized drug use and alcohol use and all of that for me, and my mom had did the very best she could, I believe, which, I blamed her my whole life up until this last time I went to rehab. I thought it was her fault, but yeah, she had did the best she could, and honestly, I think that's one of the things that kept me away from my children was, that not wanting to put them through the same thing. Maybe if they don't see it there, it's not going to be a problem, when you find out that it's made up in our DNA, for some of us. So yeah, I started, I think experimenting pretty young. I was 15, but it was allowed, I never had that structure in life or, somebody saying, this is, it's going to take you down a really dark path. And it really did. And I maintained for a long time, would try to straighten up, and then I had the kids, and thought I had it together, but that wasn't the case. And my disease, it progressed on,
Yeah, when
from
you
it
say
started out.
maintain, kind of go back to that because I think so many people are living that kind of precarious life where, they're just dabbling in certain things,
Yeah,
whether it's alcohol or drugs. And, a lot of people don't associate addiction with abuse, right? So
right,
they think,
right.
well, hey, I go to work every day.
Yeah,
I'm not one of those people that have to drink or drug first thing in the morning. So I must be perfectly fine, but we know that's a slippery slope. So when
it
you say
is.
maintain, what kind of describe what that meant in your day to
So
day?
yeah, so it had basically started out with the lesser of the evils, I could drink on the weekends. I was taking care of my kids. They were going to school. The house was clean. My marriage was still intact, that's maintaining for me, but as it progressed and, I experimented with other drugs, I got a hold of that one that I couldn't let go of, and it wasn't letting go of me, and that's really, I feel like when I had given up on, thinking that I was going to have any other life than the one, honestly, that my mother had had, and I just literally walked away. I had tried to clean up. I couldn't do it, and the kids' dad was not having it. Thankfully, thank God for him, you know, he wasn't having it. He's like, you can't be here. You can't be around these guys. And it was probably the best thing that happened to them because they're um, amazing, but I went with my mom, we used
Yeah.
together and we had talked before. So my mom had passed away 3 weeks before, my last rehab stay. And that was April of 2019. So, yeah, I think we open, those of us that are predispositioned to that, the first time we take ourselves out of uh, ourself, so to say, that we find that release of that,
Mhm.
it's always there, forever. I'm an addict. I crossed a line I can't uncross. So what do I do from there?
And when
Right.
you say the one, can you describe what was the one that hooked you?
The one that hooked me was heroin.
Yeah.
So, and it grabbed me and it did not let go. It
Yeah.
just, it ruined me. And I could not see any way out. Once an addict gets to that point, they're living on the streets. I have track marks. You can't get a job. Like, it's really, really hard for people to come back from that. I mean, there's a lot more resources now than when I first started using it was still pretty taboo, and it wasn't talked about as if it is now, where you've got people that are willing to help, and more open-minded to the fact that I'm somebody's daughter or, somebody's parent or somebody's sister, and that's hard to see when you're looking at somebody on the street, But,
That is
and it's,
totally true. And
yeah,
you walked, so do you think because you had your mom and your mom was using, and there's that, I'm sure you had a friend relationship with your mom, and a drug addict friendship, but do you think
yeah,
you use that as an excuse to say, not, that kind of thing, like, well, this is just what I'm
yeah,
built for, so
absolutely. I gave
gotta
up
go.
years and years ago on ever thinking that I was going to be able to have a different life, and actually just used it as, well, I'm just like my mom. Well, you guys are right. I'm just, and other people too, like, oh, even as far as I would think my family, like, you can't help her. We can't help her, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I believed that myself. I believed honestly until I met Mariah,
Yes.
you know, and that there was nothing was going to change for me. And you find, that one person, those couple people, you and Mariah, changed everything about my last
Yeah.
stay at Gateway. I've been to Gateway 5 times.
5 times. So
You
you
know?
always, like, while you were on the street, so you walked away from husband, dissolved relationship, walked away from the children, limited
Yeah.
contact, right?
Yes.
Living on the streets. How bad did it get?
So bad. So
Yeah.
bad that I look at that person. I hurt for her. The things that she did, you know, to herself, to people, just the way that I was living. So if you read a book in recovery, it's the NA book, and it talks about, being reduced to animal like instinct, and that's what we are. And I lived like that, literally getting food out of a dumpster, and um, just the lowest point of my life, and I can't, sitting here now, don't know who that is and how she got there sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's just, it's sad,
Yeah.
it's sad. It's a sad thing. It's a lot of what I do now falls back onto, like, a lot of that guilt that you carry through them years, and that those what ifs and I should have's and all of that. I try never to let those come into my vocabulary anymore, because, like, there's a lot of time wasted there for not just me, my family. My family suffered. We're out there and we're using and we're doing this stuff, and we think, well, we're not hurting anybody but ourselves. And the realization is that we are hurting everybody we come in contact with in one way or another, you know?
Wow, that
So
is powerful to think about it that way, because you're right. You almost get into this point where you feel invisible. Like,
yeah,
nobody sees what I'm doing. I'm perfectly
right.
fine. Nobody sees me, because we know that addiction is, a person that has an addictive personality or is addicted, they can justify anything. Anything.
Everything that I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it can go through their mind, and they can
Yeah.
rationalize and make excuses for every single thing. And one of those excuses are, this is the way I'm supposed to be. I'm not going to get any
Yeah.
better. My
Yeah.
children deserve better. My husband deserves better. I
Yeah.
deserve what I'm getting.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to get better. So the first time you went to rehab, how did that happen? Was that a choice, or did you get it into the system? How did that happen?
Into the system. I don't feel like I ever signed up for rehab. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to rehab today. Maybe once I had, but I got in the judicial system, and got myself in some trouble. And it's only by the grace of God that, at the very end of my using, they were like, we're going to try this. We're going to let you see what you can do, and it's amazing, really, for
Yeah.
somebody that I should have been in prison or dead,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we know, and that's going to be part of our talk today, is how many times God has saved you, for sure. But
Sure.
when you think about, you said, and this is so important, because for people that are listening that don't have really the point of context to know about how to get to rehab or who's in rehab, many people that are in rehab did not choose to be in rehab. They are ordered to go to rehab. They
Yes.
might have had an intervention from their family or from the court system. And so is that part of the failure of your several stints, is you just didn't buy into why you were there? Give me an idea
Yeah.
of when you
So
fail, what could you have done differently the first time? Like, why do you fail at rehab?
what I did with myself after rehab. So I am a firm believer in that the rehab gives you time and tools. So everything about what you do the moment that you leave there is going to set you up if you're going to fail or if you're going to make it. So every time I'd been there, I'd heard them say, you need to go to a recovery home or somewhere else, and I just didn't feel like I ever was going to be able to do that. I didn't want to leave. I wasn't going to leave my mom. And then there's always this pullback, and fear. So I think it's every time I failed, I went right back to where I was. So, and since I want to be honest about this, a lot of the times for somebody that's coming in off of an opiate, we're medicated. And I fully believe that sets us up to fail also. And I was medicated the last time I left too. I had just chose to come off of it in a very stable place. I think all those factors play into it. I'm not against medically assisted help, because obviously, but I think after a prolonged period of time on it, it is destructive. It's the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing, so
So you think it
sets
you up for failure? And are you thinking of
I'm
that?
a drug addict.
Right,
I'm
right,
going to
right.
sell the drugs you're giving me and get the drugs I want.
Right, right.
Or I've learned to manipulate the drugs you're giving me. So, I mean, it's a cycle,
Right.
and it really just comes down to, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want your life to change?
That's
it.
it.
So I have lost so many people. The drugs today are not like the drugs that were out when I was in high school. They're not. And that's just how it is. Chances are you're going to die, or somebody close to you is going to die. They're not the same.
Much stronger
So
today. So much stronger.
Yeah.
Do you think easier to get to than back in your day, or really much easier?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think, why we're on that, before we, crawl out of this and learn what happened in the rehab stint that did work? What do you think, what kind of advice could you give to parents that had a Rachel, that might need to look and be aware of things? Is there, and you parented your own daughter now, who's still young enough to, for us to worry about, right?
Yeah.
But so what kind of advice, first of all, would you give as warning signs to look out for? And then what would you say you could do to provide guidance as a parent that is worried about addiction for their children?
So being honest with your children. We have all through high school, at some point in your life, somebody's tried something. I think just being honest with them, communication, I think, is everything. Be their parent, not their friend. Absolutely. And that's a fine line there, because you want your kids to talk to you. But you have to educate yourself also, and be educated if that's not something you ever did. Drugs are having teenagers is shocking to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's just being open-minded and being honest. Be that parent that they feel like they can come talk to. If you're the screaming, hollering, gonna spaz out parent, they're never going to come talk to you about what's going on with them, and that's so important. I'm so glad that me and my kids, even with my situation, can come and talk to me about stuff like that. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to enable you, but I'm definitely going to help you. I'm going to give you my experience, because even with my kids watching what I've went through, they've experimented and we've had to sit and talk about it. But I'm not mad at you. You're 17 years old, but I want to talk to you. I want to give you some of my experience, and people
Yeah.
are like, oh, I can't believe they do that with everything you've been through. Well, they're not me. And that's another thing, like, they're not me. I don't know if they're addicts, and unfortunately that's a Russian roulette game right there. If you want to play and find out, I'll be here for you. I know where you can go to get help, but at some point you're 17, 18, you're making your own choices. I can't do that for you.
Yeah, that's such a good point too, because so many people go into, now marijuana is legal,
Mhm.
and, obviously alcohol is legal. You can easily get drugs. People
Yeah.
just don't realize what their tolerance levels are and what their
Yeah.
limitations are, because not
Yeah.
everybody is the same. And, I used to counsel women, and um, is it unfortunate that you're 25 and you're now an addict and you can no longer, or you're an alcoholic and you could, yes, that is unfortunate. Are there people that have social drinks their entire life and never have a problem with abuse? Yes. Why did that
Yes.
happen to you? I don't know, but we
Yeah.
don't know what our limitations are. So it is a
Right.
very slippery slope the more you push that boundary.
It is. It is. And there is no going back, and I'll just jump into that while we're talking about it, So my original clean date was April 30th of 2019. And on August 28th of this year, I wanted to be that normal person again. I didn't understand why, I wanted to be that person that could go have that drink. I was going through so much and I was so scared and had regressed back away from God and what I thought, you know, what I wanted in life. And I drank and I did. And I didn't give up. I'm going to say that, but there has been consequences. And I'm not talking about, I didn't lose things in my life again. I didn't lose my family and my friends. There was the mental consequence of it for me, however humbling experience it's been for me. People go through that, and I may have judged those people sitting in my meetings, when they come back in, I'm like, oh, how could they do that? You've had all this time. How could you do that? Well, I found out, and I have so much more compassion for them. And then why don't they come back? I
Yeah.
know now, because when you establish this and you go into a room and you've been this person for 3 years and you have to come back in and be like, I drank, the judgment and or maybe not even judgment, but what you feel like is judgment is going to keep you from coming back in and getting the help you need. So,
Yeah,
and it's important.
the shame that you feel it, you're radiating the shame, but you feel like it's
Yeah.
coming from everywhere else.
Yeah.
And,
And I
when
mean,
you say you lost your sober date,
I
and,
did.
and in your mind, you're going to think, I've lost everything that I've worked for.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
haven't, and it
Right.
did. And if anybody out there struggling has been in and went back out, um, you haven't, it's just a new chapter, it's just something, something new. You start over, take a deeper look, build your relationship with God. And I promise you that's what's kept me. I have amazing people in my life up here, amazing people. But people are people, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, and you have to, that's the biggest lesson I took from this. Um, I think we see people in recovery and they're talking about being spiritual and we want to put them on a pedestal, but honestly, we're just all people,
That's it. Yeah.
and
And people, you're right. You have to get to that point where you have to forgive yourself and know you're just human. And you're right. You have those tools. You have that time served, so to speak,
yeah,
in your sober life. But, you and I were talking about that. There's so much that goes into getting somebody sober.
yes,
We work on that. It's all about
yes,
the programs and the 30-day programs, and let's get them detox, let's get them clean,
yeah,
but what we're forgetting is now we've got a sober person that was once dependent, still
Yeah.
has addiction issues. And now they're
Yes.
trying to live a sober life. And that, where are we through their journey?
Right.
Where's the
Right.
support through their journey?
Right. Because the newcomer coming into a meeting, you are the most important person. You
Mhm.
know, what about the person that's been sitting in the chair for 4 or 5 years that's struggling? So I've never paid a bill in my life. I literally, when I tell you I lived the streets, that's what I did. I had no bank accounts. I had no car payments. I had nothing to take care of. There was nothing. I stole to feed myself. I didn't have this. So when life is progressing and my life is getting better and changing, even those changes that are amazing I'm terrified here. Am I going to walk into a room full of people and say that? People that I think I've been doing so great? No, I'm not going to do that. You need to, but I'm not going to,
I was going to say,
Do you
are you
want to
giving
walk
your
into,
self advice or?
yeah, do you want to walk into a room and you're 40 years old and be like, how do I set up my Wi-Fi, or, budgeting myself? It's just all those things we don't think about, because if you've lived like I have, you don't know how to be an adult. That's what I love about you and Mariah also. And I'm just going to put that out there, is you've been here this whole journey, and you do that for not just me, not just friends. You guys do that for people. You're making a real difference in people's lives, because there's a lot of people willing to help in the beginning, but
Yeah.
you get your life going and it's like people fade out, and it's scary. And then you're alone again, which is another reason you got to build that relationship with God too.
I think that's
So,
so good. And you might have touched on something, Rachel, actually, because you continue to go to meetings. That's what sobriety support kind of is. But you're in those meetings, sometimes you're rehashing past struggles, and you're not really focused on those futuristic things that you need. Just like you said, like you're late to the game. You're blazing this trail later in life. Now I know that's not all you do, because your group actually gets together and does events and you hang out, and that's so amazing. But you might have stumbled onto something, and it's almost like life skills,
yes, it's
getting together and,
important.
hey, let's do a workshop on balancing your checkbook, or
Yes.
let's do a workshop on this.
Let's
I
teach you how
think
to make a
that's so
resume.
important. Yes, exactly.
So
Right.
yeah,
That's
I think
those
all that stuff
skills.
is super important, because we don't know how to do that.
Yep.
I don't know how to do that, and it's needed. I mean, you need
Yeah.
to be able to do that, and to take care of yourself.
Exactly. And expressing your fears. I think that's so important. You know, Sobriety and going to a program is not just about, hi, my name is Rachel, I'm an addict.
Right.
It's been X amount of days since I've been clean, yak, yak, yak. By really opening up and sharing, hey, I'm afraid to sign this lease. I'm
Yeah.
afraid of having a car payment. I'm
Right.
afraid, opening up and exposing, because the power of a meeting, I hope everybody has gotten this by listening to Encouragementology, because I'm a huge support group advocate. But you're not just going there to check in like a Weight Watchers, right? It's not just about
Right.
keeping you accountable. The
Right.
idea is to open up and to share your
Yes.
success, share
Yes.
your fears,
Yes.
connect with people,
Yeah.
is so, so important, and feel accepted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how am I getting help if somebody else isn't talking about what they've been going through? And how am I going to ever help anybody else if I'm not going to come in and talk about it? And I just talked about this in a meeting the other day, about how I don't do that. And I need to, we always think, oh, so I say for myself, I've said this to you guys before, like, I don't have anything that's going to help anybody. That's I'm going through so much, and have so much to say to help somebody, but it's something happens. You go in there, and that vulnerability.
Yes.
And as addicts, as people that have used, we've been taken advantage of, and we've taken advantage of people. That is the hardest thing I've had to overcome, is being vulnerable, because it's a sign of weakness. Like, I'm going to be manipulated in some way, or, and I feel like a lot of people feel like that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
That's one of the hardest things. So think about that. You 7 times into a rehab, right? 7 times.
Yes.
What made the last time the last time?
So, a couple weeks before I had gotten arrested, and this was also in April, my mom had passed away, and I hadn't seen her for like a year and a half. She went to the nursing home. The last time I seen her, but I'm going to tell you what, when I got to the church, I hadn't seen my kids in many years.
Wow.
Or their father.
And you're still
And
active
they were
addiction
there.
right now.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
high. I'm coming to the church high. I'll tell you, I got high in the church. It was a terrible experience for me, but one that set me on this path,
Yeah.
My daughter and my son held me as if I hadn't walked out on them all them years ago. And I looked at my mom's casket as I'm mourning her because I loved her, and just realized that this is what my kids have been doing for the last 7 years, is mourning the loss of their mom, and I'm alive.
Wow.
And it was heartbreaking. And it sat with me. And that is just another one of the things. I didn't know that my life was going to change. My sister was taking my daughter to get a dress for a dance and was actually going to allow me to be a part of that. And I was high and I wasn't going to be able to go. And I remember hitting my knees and just being like, God, I cannot do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this. Help. And well, I went to jail less than 4 hours later. So, and they had it, I was on drug court. I had just caught 2 more felonies. And I met Mariah, and she prayed with me. And I don't know technically if you're really supposed to do that, but she did. And she just planted this seed of faith, like, God loves you and you're worth it, and we can do something different here. And I just went with it. I was so scared. She had me fill out the application for the Greendale Recovery Home up here. And I didn't think I was going to get in. And we were actually on the phone with outpatient. I was going back to West Frankfort, and nothing was going to change. And I knew that. I knew what was going to happen when I got out. And I'm on the phone with outpatient and I'm in tears. The other phone rings, and this is exactly how it happened. And it was the recovery home saying I got in. And I'm on one phone crying. Mariah's on the other phone, and she's like, hang up. And Gateway actually brought me the 6-hour drive to Rockford. They let me stay there for, I think it was like 3 or 4 days for free. They didn't charge anything. And to make sure, I don't know if it was because they were tired of me coming to Gateway, but
maybe a little of both.
Maybe a little both. It changed my life.
Wow. And in each situation, you stayed in Gateway longer than you were supposed to stay. So first of all, let's say this: down on her knees, surrendered to God. Yes. She surrendered. She'd been fighting all these years, surrendered. 4 hours later, she's in jail, goes to rehab, 30-day rehab. She stays 3 months. Yeah. Now that's unheard of, because when you're in there, people are trying to stay longer. The ones that really want to get help are trying to stay longer, and their insurance and everything kicks them out. And a lot of them have to leave before they're really ready. So 30-day treatment, you're there 3 months. You go, at the last minute, you get a call for Rockford. You go 5 hours, 6 hours up north. You're only supposed to be there how long?
Just a few months. I mean, probation, I was in a lot of trouble. And I was on drug court, and probation was like, we'll let you go for a couple months, but you got to come back, and I'm in this thing for 5 months and call probation. And they're like, we don't know what to do with you. We didn't expect this. We didn't expect you to make it. Well, why would they?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think God just really stepped in there and was like, this is where she's supposed to be,
You asked for help.
I did probation from up here, and I finished, and that probation officer, I ran from these people for years. Turns out they're the ones that really helped me.
Yeah. See, they were just trying to catch you for a good reason.
Just for a good reason. Yeah. So I think things just lined up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it did, but not without a lot of work on
I
your
mean, it was
part.
a lot. I was scared. I came to Rockford with a suitcase, no money, no job, no family. Nobody wanted anything to do with me by the time I got up here.
Right.
And I was scared.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to find a job. Nobody wanted to hire me. I'm a felon. It just was a lot of people believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. A lot of prayers going up. I built my connection with God way before I built my connection with anybody in recovery. Had it
That's
not been
such
for that connection with God, I would not have made it. Plus, also my recovery family up here. But yeah,
and now
it can
great
be
job.
done. I have a
Great
great
job.
job.
You're
I
in
have a great
union
job.
school, or have you already
Yes,
graduated union school?
no, I still have a couple more years left of school. So yeah, I'm doing an apprenticeship program, and listen, it can be done,
Yeah.
So you wouldn't recognize me. I wish I could just post my mugshot somewhere for everybody to see, because it's like that can't be the same person,
Exactly. I'm
Yeah. And
looking
it
at
hasn't been
somebody.
perfect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It hasn't been perfect. You've had days of doubt and days
I've
of
made so
fear.
many mistakes.
Yeah. But one of the things I don't want to miss this before we wrap up, but you said to me a long time ago, you had to attack this differently. You had to do things differently. Not only were you far enough away, but you realized that given your own time and your own schedule to do anything you wanted to do, you got into trouble. So
Yes,
you
every time.
actually in rehab or in your sober living, you had a structured worksheet
Yes.
and you took that home with you for years.
Yes. Yes, I still have them.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
that's
since
what
my
planning your hours.
structure, plan your day out. And I'm talking like 30 minutes by 30 minutes, if that's what you got to do. We are our own worst enemy, and left to our thoughts, we'll destroy ourselves
That's right.
so quickly. So
That is so powerful. Yeah, and so you're on track, you're back on track. And one of the
ma'am,
most exciting portions, not only did she get that great big hug from her children when she started this the journey to get sober, but she has got to reconnect with her family. She has got to
yes,
go to some pretty monumentous occasions.
yes,
Tell us
yes,
about
yes,
those.
absolutely. So I can say that I missed a lot, and I talked about that, like what we missed, but there's so much still in the future. I have got to see my daughter drive and my son graduate, and basketball games and proms, and my daughter's graduating this year. My son is going to be a father, and I'm there for all of it. I'm going to try to say this without crying. So this is the child that I left. I abandoned him, and they find out they're having a baby, and he calls me and he says, Mom, can you come home? Can you come
Yeah.
stay with us? Can you help me with this baby? And everything that I went through, every emotion and fear and thought, and just the darkest of times, is nothing compares to that moment right there. That moment, I'm never going to arrive anywhere, but if my children can look at me and say, will you be a part of my children's life, after everything that I've done, that's love, that's every reason. If I'm having a bad day, I can definitely look at them. I didn't get clean for them because they weren't talking to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're definitely my motivation, and
Yeah.
there's a future, you know, that
And
I can
God had so many more blessings for you,
so many,
and they're one of them.
yeah, they are. They're amazing. They're most resilient, and even their father. And I'm just going to, and his girlfriend, Sarah, they're amazing to me. I came back in their life, and just here I am again, and they didn't know whether to trust me or, talk to me. I had to call my kids every day. I messaged them every morning, and they even will talk about this and they wouldn't even respond to me for like 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And I'm still just continuing, like, I'm here, I'm going to do this. We tell people all the time, I'm going to get clean. I'm going to get clean. Really, honestly, in the moment, we mean it. For anybody out there that's just listened to this from somebody, like, hey, I'm going to get clean, and then we rob you. No, in that moment, we mean it with everything in us. It's just so much harder than what you think. There's so much more that it involves other than just putting a drug down. As an addict, you'll pick something else up.
That's right.
You've really got to fix yourself. You've got to fix internally. And when I say fix yourself, I mean, you've got to like surrender that to God and allow him to fix you and allow people to help you, so.
Man, Rachel, I could talk to you all day. That is so,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, that is so, so wonderful. I'm excited about your success. We're going to keep following you along. And when you're a grandma and you're just doing so many amazing things, starting over is always an option. And always an option, and surrender it to God and let him fix you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on it. And I love you so much. And I'm so grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much.
If you want to share encouragementology with a friend who needs to know they're not alone in this journey of self-discovery, you can visit encouragementology.com or anywhere you stream your content to receive this episode and all others. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for additional encouragement throughout the week. So I challenge you, become aware of your own ups and downs along your journey as you open yourself up to accept and learn from others. Reach out, ask for help, and surrender all. I know you can do it. Thank you for listening to Encouragementology with Kendall Boyson, where we find positive ways to handle some of life's challenges.
I stumbled through until the path was clear. That's when I found you and how